So in this video, let's talk about the molecular formula versus the empirical formula, okay? And so let's take a look at glucose C6H12O6, okay? The idea is that we look at the numbers, the subscript in the molecule, and we take the highest common factor, okay? So what number do all these numbers have in common, which is the highest common factor? Well, obviously they have 2 in common. So 6 is divisible by 2. Okay, but that's not the highest common factor. Highest common factor in all these numbers is actually 6 itself. And so the idea is that we're going to take that number and divide all these numbers by. And so if I take 6 and divide by 6, I'll get C. Okay, so I'll just get 1. If I take 12 and divide by 6, I'll get H2. That will be equal to 2. And if I take 6 and divide by 6, I'll get O. So this would be the empirical formula. Okay. Now what about P4O10? Okay, what would be the empirical formula for this? Well, to me, it looks as if what number does 4 and 2 have and 4 and 10 have in common, that are both divisible by that number? Well, it looks to me that as 2 is the only number. Okay, and in fact, if I take 4 and divide by 2, I'll get P2. Okay, if I take oxygen, which is 10, and divide that by 2, I'll get 5. So therefore, the empirical formula for this would be 5. Okay, now what about this one? CCl4. What would be the empirical formula for this? Well, out of 1 and 4, the common factor is just 1. The only thing they have in common is 1. Okay, and so in this case, actually, and so if they have 1 in common, well, if I take carbon 1 and divide by 1, well, that's just 1. And if I take Cl4 and divide that by 1, I'll get 4. So this would be Cl4. So notice that the molecular formula and the empirical formula are the same here. So do not assume that the molecular formula and empirical formula has to be different. Okay, it does not. Okay, so what about this one? How about C10H22? Well, to me, it looks as if the highest common factor between 10 and 22 happens to be what? They're both divisible by 2. And that's the highest number that they're both divisible by. So in fact, if I take 10 and divide by 2, I'll get C5. If I take 22 and divide by 2, I'll get H11. Okay, so this would be the empirical formula. Okay, so how about C6H18O3? Okay, how would we take care of this one? Well, it looks to me now the highest common factor they have 6, 18, and 3 have in common is 3. Okay, and so if I take 6 and divide by 3, I'll get 2. So this is C2. If I take 18 and divide by 3, I'll get 6. If I take 3 and divide by 3, I'll get 1. So this is the empirical formula. Now what about H2O? Well, again, hydrogen has a subscript of 2, oxygen has a subscript of 1. Okay, so what is the common factor between 2 and 1? The highest common factor just happens to be 1. And so in fact, if I take 2 and divide by 1, I'll get 2. So this is H2. If I take 1 and divide by 1, I'll get 1. So this is H2O. So the molecular formula and empirical formula for water is the same. Okay, and so this is the general idea behind the molecular formula and getting the empirical formula. And empirical formula is simply defined as the lowest whole number ratio of atoms in a compound. Okay, so again, the lowest whole number ratio of atoms in a compound.